As expected, main opposition CPN-UML has flayed the government's policies and programs that was unveiled last Friday. CPN-UML chair, while pitching his voice at the parliament today, completely rejected the government blueprint, citing that an unprecedented economic recession called for special policies and programs. However, the one that the government presented was a far cry to deal with the crisis. Good evening, I'm Abhyuday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli flatly rejects the government's policies and programs. Oli says the government should withdraw the policies and programs and rewrite. Kathmandu District Court allows to keep all the 12 alleged culprits in the fake Bhutanese refugee case for 3 more days. Indian media claims Indian Maoist leader Dinesh Gop arrested from Nepal, says Gop was arrested with the combined action of Jharkhand police and NIA. And host Argentina kick off the FIFA Under-20 campaign with a clinical win over Uzbekistan. Argentina clinched the match 2-1. Discussions on the government's policies and programs for the upcoming fiscal year has started at the Parliament from today. Discussions on the policies and programs of the fiscal year 2080-81 started at the House of Representatives from today after Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal had proposed to hold discussions on them. Taking part in today's discussions, leader of the main opposition and chairperson of CPN-UML, KP Sharma Oli, suggested the government to withdraw and rewrite its policies and programs presented at the Parliament last Friday, saying that the country is passing through a difficult phase at the moment. Chairperson Oli claimed that the policies and programs presented by the government didn't have a clear target or objective. Oli also demanded for a fair investigation into the fake Bhutanese refugee scam, saying that efforts were being made to set free the guilty and frame the innocent. CPN-UML Chair Oli had directed his parliamentarians yesterday to reject the policies and programs while speaking at the Parliament. Meanwhile, the lawmakers of the ruling side defended the policies and programs. Prior to this, speaking during the 0 hour, parliamentarians had raised the issue of the fake Bhutanese refugee scam, problems of sugarcane farmers, among other issues. On behalf of the government, President Ramchandra Paudel had presented the policies and programs for the upcoming fiscal year at the Parliament on Friday. Speaker Devraj Ghimire has informed that 20 lawmakers have registered a proposal to amend the policies and programs. The Kathmandu District Court has given permission to keep in police custody all the individuals arrested in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam for 3 more days. According to the court's information officer, Deepak Dahal, the district court has given permission to keep them in police custody until Tuesday. The police have already arrested 16 individuals, including leaders of the racketeers Keshav Dulal and Sanu Bhandari, who are alleged of collecting money from Nepali nationals, assuring them of sending them to the United States in the guise of Bhutanese refugees. Former Deputy Prime Minister and CPN-UML leader Top Bahadur Rai Maji, former Home Minister and Nepali Congress leader Balkrishna Khan, Secretary Teknath Pandey, former Home Minister Ram Bahadur Thapa's security advisor Indrajit Rai, former parliamentarian Ang Taba Sherpa, chairperson of Nepal Hajj Committee Shamsher Mia, Bhutanese leader Teknath Rizal, among other high-ranking leaders and officials, have been arrested for their alleged involvement in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam. Prior to this, the court had given until today to keep them in police custody. The Council of Ministers has expanded in Bagmati Province. Chief Minister Shalikram Jamarkatel expanded the cabinet by appointing 6 new ministers, with 4 from Nepali Congress and 2 from CPN Unified Socialist. The Office of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers informed that from Nepali Congress, Pukar Maharjan has been given the responsibilities of the Tourism, Industries and Cooperatives Ministries, while Misa Khadka has been appointed as the Minister for Forest and Environment. Uttam Joshi has been given the responsibility to lead the Health Ministry, and Ram Krishna Chitrakar has been appointed as a Minister without portfolio. Likewise, from CPN Unified Socialist, Rajendraman Shrestha has been appointed as the Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Development, while Lakshman Lamsal has been given the responsibility to lead the Ministry of Labour, Employment and Transportation. Prior to this, from CPN Maoist Center, Saligram Jamakatel had been appointed as the Chief Minister, Yuvraj Dulal, the Fiscal Infrastructure Development Minister, Kumari Mokhtan, the Minister for Social Development, and Ganga Narayan Shrestha, the Minister for Internal Affairs and Law. Likewise, from Nepali Congress, Bahadur Singh Lama had been given the responsibility of the Ministry of Financial Affairs and Planning, while Tirtha Bahadur Lama had been appointed as the Drinking Water, Energy and Irrigation Minister. We'll take Voices were raised to felicitate Rolpa's Hari Budamagar, a double-leg amputee who set up world record by ascending Mount Everest. Lawmaker Ishwari Gharti, while addressing the 0 hour of the House, demanded special felicitation for Hari Budamagar. Lawmaker Gharti viewed that Budamagar, who is coming to the capital tomorrow after achieving the feat, should receive a grand welcome at the airport itself. Budamagar on Friday afternoon had scaled Mount Everest. He had undertaken a 5-year rigorous training to attempt the feat. Budamagar is the first double-legged amputee to scale Mount Everest. A former British Gorkha soldier, Budamagar had lost both of his legs in a Taliban ambush in Afghanistan. The local levels of Bhutan have begun distributing government allowances to people at their homes amid increasing grievances of difficulty in receiving the allowances at banks. The senior citizens, those with health issues and those disabled have breathed respite after the local government coordinated with the banks to deliver the allowances at their homes. Prior to this, the allowance receivers were compelled to reach the district headquarters to receive their allowances. Mallarani, Naubihani, among other rural municipalities, have started distributing security allowances that are provided through banks from accessible areas of each wards. Prior to this, the local government used to provide social security allowances from local areas. However, the government had introduced the provision of receiving allowances only through the receiver's bank account, citing increase in irregularities. And it's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. Why has the government that speaks of good governance and transparency kept cabinet decisions secret? Your options are A, ill intention, B, breaching right to information, and C, normal process. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And it's time now for the international update. Indian media has claimed that one of Jharkhand's dreaded Naxalite has been arrested from Nepal. The arrested Naxalite had plagued the police for 2 decades, carrying out criminal and Naxalite activities in different districts of the state. It took years for the police and the National Investigation Agency to arrest the Naxalite identified as Dinesh Gop. He was caught in Nepal with the joint efforts of police and the National Investigation Agency, according to the Indian media. Dinesh Gop was synonymous with terror in Jharkhand. About 150 cases are registered against the infamous Dinesh Gop as the mastermind of the People's Liberation Front of India. Apart from levy recovery, he is also accused of terror funding. Greece's incumbent Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis of the conservative New Democracy Party seeks re-election with his predecessor, Alexis Tsipras, of the left-wing Syriza party being its main rival. Today's vote is held under a proportional representation system, which makes it difficult for any contender to secure an outright victory, setting the stage for a second round of balloting. The cost of living crisis is the biggest issue for voters who will choose 300 members of parliament. Parties need to secure at least 3% of the popular vote to enter parliament. They will then be allocated parliamentary seats in direct proportion to their share of the vote. The 300 members of parliament are elected from lists of party candidates and for geographical constituencies. Tens of thousands of Israelis joined protests across the country, with such demonstrations now entering their 20th week. Protesters have been repeatedly voicing their anger over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contested plans to tighten controls on the Supreme Court. The planned overhaul, which would give the government control over naming judges to the Supreme Court and let Parliament override many rulings, was paused after opponents organized some of the biggest street protests ever seen in Israel. The government accuses activist judges of increasingly usurping the role of Parliament and says the overhaul is needed to restore balance between the judiciary and elected politicians. Critics say it will remove vital checks and balances underpinning a democratic state and hand unchecked power to the government. A sea of blue and white Israeli flags, which have become a symbol of both pro and anti-overhaul protests, coated a central highway in Tel Aviv. Protests garnered lower attendance last night as a truce between Israel and the militant Islamic Jihad group officially came into effect, ending a 5-day escalation, which was the worst episode of cross-border fire since a 10-day war in 2021. Protests seem to have been invigorated, with Hebrew media estimating some 100,000 in attendance. And that's all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will air at 10:30 tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.